Shakur Stevenson, the dark horse at £135. Recently, this past weekend, made his lightweight debut up against Shakur Yoshino and scored a TKO in the 6th round after knocking him down twice. First knockdown, a beautiful little slip counter left, and then the second knockdown, overwhelming him and sort of catching him sort of when those shots behind the ear. And maybe a premature stoppage, but Yoshino wasn't doing much. And it was a beautiful performance from Shakur, and he's now made his mark in the lightweight division. I'm going to say here why I do believe he is the dark horse, because at lightweight, the major players are seen to be the undisputed champion. Obviously, is Devin Haney, but then you've also got the likes of Tanky. Even though he's fights at all kinds of different weights, Tank, he kind of does. He's kind of doing what Canelo used to do, where he never really picked a weight class and will kind of just do whatever. But he's a lightweight, Tank. Ryan Garcia is a lightweight, and even though again those two are fighting in a few weeks and it's not really a lightweight bout, they are pretty much lightweights. If you're going to talk about the big fights for Shakur Stevenson, that would be the those two would be up there. And then you've also got the likes of Vasyl Lomachenko, who obviously is fighting Devin Haney very, very soon. And an excellent fight. And I do think, as well, if you look down the division, you've got Kambosos Jr. still in there. You got Isaac Cruz. You got guys who are still very, very dangerous in this division. And lightweight, I said it before, it's my favourite division in boxing because I think the amount of talent that's in this division. I mean, if you go throughout it, so I'll go to Shakur last, but you got Tank Davis, first of all. A destructive puncher, a mini Mike Tyson, someone who's hyped up at such a young age, and he still is young, Tank. I think he's like 26 now, maybe. And what he's been able to do in boxing, considering his size and the power that he generates, is crazy. And already he's got a name for himself. He's 28, Tank. But he's already got a name for himself in boxing, and he has achieved so much, I feel, without really finding anybody of a certain level. I think you could argue who's the best guy for Santa Cruz, maybe you could say, but to me, you're going to see him against Ryan Garcia. That would be the best guy he faced, and I'll do a preview when that fight comes. But I do believe that with Tank, you've got somebody who's quick, he's elusive, and he's powerful. That is a horrible combination, and southpaw. So you then got Tank, who I think is a dangerous fight for anybody. Then moving on, you got Ryan Garcia, who is somebody who divides opinion because of his social media presence, but you can't deny the talent. This guy has got lightning fast hands, and his counter left hook, I think, is probably one of my favourite punches in boxing because he throws it so quick, but it's so accurate and it's so powerful. Because he's quick, I think people realise this as well, but his power gets underlooked. He can hit hard, and you look at what he did to Luke Campbell, the way he threw that body shot and also showed the heart after getting dropped. I think it's showing that no matter what, I think Garcia is a problem for a lot of people. I have questions about him, certain things about. I feel like he sometimes stands a bit upright, and I feel like he can be easy to hit. But regardless, undefeated. And again, age-wise, 24 years old, very, very young. And I think that is going to be a very, very interesting fight against Tank. And I'd hope to see Ryan in more bigger fights moving forward, because I do think that there's just so much he can do in the sport, and at so young. There's a lot still there for him, and I think his size as well, he's very, very long, so there's a lot there for Ryan, I think, that he could achieve. And I do think that he's a lot better than what people tend to give him credit for, because like I said, he has that, people like to call him pretty boy, and they have that perception of him being an Instagram fighter, but he's for real, we all know it. And yeah, excellent fighter. And then a man who almost gets underlooked, I think, because of his one loss to Teofimo, but Vasyl Lomachenko still in this division. A guy who is still up there in the pound-for-pound list and one of the greats of the sport. There's a point where people were saying this guy was the greatest boxer of all time, and whilst I never really agree with that, you can't deny what he's been able to do, the way he fights. It's so... I feel sorry for his opponents when he's in there. His last fight was a little bit iffy, but I think with Lomachenko, what he's been able to do in the sport, going up the different weights, he's a very, very... he's one of the greats, and I think he's a horrible fight for a lot of people in there. And I think his experience as well, 35, he's old, but let's not get it twisted. He's still got a lot in the tank, and I do feel that with Lomachenko, there's a lot that I feel would be interesting to see how he matches up with a lot of these younger guys. Teofimo, we saw he lost, but let's not get twisted. He pushed Teofimo very, very hard in that fight, and I think he just started a bit late. He made a lot of excuses, which I didn't like in the fight, but after the fight. But to me, he's still hung in there with Teofimo, who he's now fighting at 140 and he's about to fight Josh Taylor. But I should tell you, it's a big guy he hung in there with, and a guy who soon, not long ago, was fighting a lot lower down. I think he's certainly someone who will give a problem to everybody, and I'd be so interested to see him versus Tank, which has been talked about for a long time. And obviously him and Haney's going to be a good fight. And then you look at Devin Haney. Devin Haney, undisputed lightweight champion. Very, very skilled. Again, someone who is very, very young in the sport. I think with Devin Haney, you've got somebody who... He's young. I think he's about 24. But what he's been able to do is physically, he's very, very big for the weight class. And I do wonder how long he will continue to find the weight. But I do think that you've got somebody with Devin Haney who I just think he fights behind the jab so well. His jab is one of the best in boxing. And I think somebody who... He's a fantastic across the... moving across the ring. And nobody can ever really pin him down on low combinations. I think the only time he ever got in trouble was against Linares, and that's because I think he tried to almost be a little bit... He tried to be something that he's not, and try, I think, to be more aggressive and knock him out, which it's not his game. He hasn't got knockout power. We know this Haney, regardless of what he does. But I do think that with Devin Haney, you've got someone who's extremely mature as well for his age in terms of his IQ in the ring's very, very good. I have questions, but I think out of all of them, I think he's got the most ambition out of all. I think he really does want to beat a lot of these guys and fight most of these guys. I just think that with Devin Haney, you got somebody who's a real interesting conundrum for a lot of fighters to solve, and I'd be interested to see how him and Lomachenko match up for that reason. So a great division. And now you've got Shakur Stevenson coming up. Shakur Stevenson, for me, in boxing, I don't think there's a better talent than Shakur Stevenson. And I really do mean that, because I think if you look, I personally think, and I know he hasn't achieved maybe what he can achieve yet, I think Boots Ennis is in my opinion, the biggest talent in boxing at the moment. I think he hasn't been able to prove it against the top opposition, I know, and he hasn't really been that active. But I do think that Boots, I said before how much I rate this guy. Switch hitter, powerful, quick, defensively quite sound. I think he's a problem for everybody at the welterweight division, including the likes of Spence and Crawford whenever that his time comes to fight those guys, if it ever happens. Whether they'll fight each other is another thing as well. But I do think that Boots is a problem. However, Shakur's up there, in my opinion, with him. You know, when I look at Shakur Stevenson, somebody who's 25 years old, a southpaw, and undefeated. And again, he was obviously represented the US at the Olympic Games. I think got a silver medal. Unlucky, to be honest. He did fight very well, but I do think that there's a big thing with him where he cried after the games and a lot of people made fun of him, but it shows how competitive this guy is. And I do think that with Shakur, the way he fights, him and Devin Haney have got a similar type of style to an extent. They both kind of have draw those comparisons to Floyd. And there's no Floyd. I think it should get that out of the way. He's one in how many? But one thing about Devin Haney's so slick as southpaw, and he's very hard. And in the pocket, he's so slick. Nobody can really touch him. And he's got a very steady jab. However, you can touch Haney. I said it before. I've seen Haney get hit a few times. The problem is nobody ever really pushes on the gas pedal as much on him, and I think they kind of let him off the hook. His chin, pretty solid. Got hit by Linares, but again, hasn't really shown any problems in his career so far. And he's been fine. However, you will see the difference when you want to talk about comparing to Floyd between Haney and between Shakur. Shakur is way more elusive. Shakur is way harder to hit. And Haney, you can he's hittable, I feel. Shakur isn't. Shakur is always moving his feet. He's always trying to make it difficult for his opponent to really cut off the ring. His jab is so sharp, and the way he throws that left. And who knows, him coming into 135, he was talking about trying to prove a point and showed, because I don't know if it was, I can't remember if he said it was his opponent or some other people, but there's a lot of talk about his power. So knockout power is a funny thing because I feel like some people have it, some people don't. It's just a physical thing. But what I do think is, with certain guys who are fast, the power can sort of, you can kind of make up for it with the speed. Amir Khan used to do this. Amir Khan didn't really have any knockout power, but he was able, because he was so fast, to sort of alarm his opponents and then eventually get them down. And I think for Shakur, it's the same sort of thing. Shakur is so quick and so elusive that I feel like and also picks his shots very well, that I feel like he will, you'll probably will see him stop quite a few people, I feel, especially going up in weight at 135. I don't think there's many people who really, I think, can match him skill-wise. And I'll say I don't think Haney matches him skill-wise as good as they are. They used to spar back in the day. They've known each other for a long time. But naturally, I don't think anybody really... and apparently, for the record, Shakur used to get the better of the sparring sessions, which doesn't surprise me. However, sparring is a whole different thing. And it's a long time ago, I think. But I think what they've both achieved, Shakur and Devin Haney, is big. And I think... I said it a while ago, that's the one fight I really want to see more than anything, because I think stylistically it's such an intriguing fight. We've seen the classic boxer against the power puncher. We've seen guys who are quick against people who are powerful. We've seen guys like Floyd and Manny. Manny, obviously older, but was said to be this quick, powerful guy, very, very fast. It's Floyd, the master boxer. We've seen so many different types of fights like that, but I remember being very excited for Rigondeaux and Lomachenko back in the day, and I think that fight didn't live up because I think Rigondeaux didn't fight the way he should have. And to be honest, Lomachenko bullied him and really outclassed him. I want to see that because they were both masterful boxers, but Rigondeaux, again, is a difference because Rigondeaux has that Cuban thing where sometimes he'll bend the rules a little bit to suit how he fights, but he's still a fantastic fighter. But with Shakur and Devin Haney, it's different because Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney are both very slick. They can both fight off the front foot and the back foot. They both got very sharp jabs. They both, I think, have the ability to make their opponent look very foolish and miss. And I think that what you're going to see, I feel with Shakur, though, like I say, watch the two of them. There's a difference. Devin Haney sometimes stands a bit straight up and kind of just pops the jab and then moves, where Shakur is sort of slightly bent down. His level's a bit lower, and because he's so... like I said, the elusive is probably the one word I would use to describe, I'll say, the difference between the two. He's so quick. And I do think with Shakur, you never really see him in trouble in fights. He's usually pretty flawless. He rarely loses a round. There's just, there's so much I think Shakur causes a problem for everybody in this division. I think him against Garcia could be interesting because of Ryan's length, but I don't really feel Ryan would pose that much of a threat for Shakur. Especially, I think, stylistically, I just think Shakur would be all wrong for him. Shakur and Tank's an interesting one because Tank does have the skill as long with the power, but I think Shakur has the capability of making a lot of people in his division look very foolish. I would love to see Shakur and Lomachenko because of the Southpaw versus Southpaw thing. But I don't know, I don't really see... I think I actually want Shakur and Lomachenko when Shakur was a few years back. But I do think with Shakur Stevenson, I don't really see many people who can really match him. I remember the one fight I really felt, okay, this guy's a problem, was against Jamal Herring, where he really beat the brakes off of him. And I think super featherweight, that was where I really wanted to see him and Lomachenko initially. But at lightweight, I have no real... I don't know, I don't have any preference of what weight I want them to fight. I just want to see it, and I hope we do see it. I hope we see all these guys fight each other. I don't think it's realistic because boxing, we know the way it is. You know, people want Anthony Joshua, Tasker, Deontay Wilder to all fight each other all over. We've only really seen Wilder and Fury, as well as Usyk and Joshua. We haven't seen Usyk and Fury. We haven't seen Joshua and Wilder. We want Spence and Crawford to fight each other. Supposedly, there's rumours that it may get announced on the Tank and Garcia card, which would be amazing, but I'm still sceptical. And Canelo Benavidez would be a good one. We wanted to see Canelo Triple G for ages. Thankfully, we did get it in the end, but again, it was looking a bit like, it's rare that these fights all happen. And Tank with Showtime, Garcia with Golden Boy. Haney kind of went from DAZN to Bob Arum. But I think Shakur is with Bob Arum. And I think There's definitely a good influx in that lightweight division. I don't think there's many people though who will match Shakur Stevenson. I think we're looking at a generational talent the way he is, and I don't really feel many people are really understanding. I think a lot of people often will go talk about the opponents, the resume. It's such a big thing in fighting. Who's he beat? But to me, it isn't about who you're beating, it's how you're beating them. Shakur is making a lot of people look like they don't even belong in there with him. What he did to Oscar Valdez, I think, should be an example. Valdez couldn't touch him in there. And that's the thing, nobody really gets near Shakur Stevenson when he fights. I do think he is the one who people should look at. Every look talks at Tank. Haney gets a little bit of shine, but I think after he beat Kambosos, I think Ryan Garcia is obviously going to get that. But Shakur is the guy, I think, in this division. I think if he fights everybody, I think if you had a super series of all these guys fighting each other, I think Shakur beats them all. I truly think he is exceptional, and I don't really see how or who beats him at the moment. I think he's... How old did I say? I think he was 25, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check. I feel because that's another thing. His age as well means that he's only going to get... He's not even in the prime of his career yet, which I think is the scary thing. He is... Yeah, 25. Not even the prime, 25 years old, you're not even there yet, and you are just as good as you are. Like I said, sharp jab, quick, all across the ring, can fight off the backhand front foot. Nobody really touches you. You know, he can hold the center of the ring if he has to. There's not many things he can't do. I think he goes to the body very well. There's nothing that with Shakur, and his feet as well. His feet are probably... Footwork is exceptional. With Shakur, one thing, if you watch him, he's always constantly moving. There's rarely a time where you see Shakur just static in the ring or being flat-footed. He's always moving, always on his toes, and I think that's something that why I feel people, and this is the difference between him and Haney. Haney sometimes will fight a bit flat-footed, where Shakur won't. Shakur will constantly be moving, and I think that is the problem that I think a lot of guys have and will have with Shakur. Again, maybe Tank can knock him out, but other than that, I don't see how you beat the guy. I think he's a problem for this division, and I think that 135 has got a real problem in their hands, and I don't think you can ignore him because what he's done at super featherweight in the weights below, what he's been able to do in the Olympics, winning silver. There's hype around Shakur Stevenson. He's not a nobody, and I'm not saying these guys are, but look at Boots Ennis. He's a fantastic, phenomenal fighter. Everybody knows how good he is, but because of I don't know, maybe hasn't got the right promoter because he's not getting the fights. The name isn't as big as maybe it should be, but Shakur's is. And it's a little bit, you look at the heavyweight division, similar. You look at someone like Filip Hrgović, I'm not comparing the two, but I'm saying Hrgović, again, hasn't really got the name behind him. In boxing, you need the name. You need people to really talk about you, and I think Shakur is getting everybody talking about him. And because of that, I just think that we are going to see somebody who, if he fights these guys, I think will cement his status as one of the best in boxing. I think he could go up to 140. Physically, 25 will welterweight be too much. We'll see. But, yeah. The talent, I think, that Shakur Stevenson has is endless. And I feel, like I said, I think he beats Devin Haney. I think he'll be too elusive and too quick for Haney. I think he'll beat Haney at his home game. I don't know where Haney beats him. I think is if he closes the distance and sort of tries to manhandle him. But even then, I don't think that would work all that well. Because whilst Haney's big for the weight, he's not gigantic. And I think with Shakur, I think these fighters, truthfully, would actually be smart to fight him now and not let him grow into the weight. Because I think once he grows into the weight, I think you may see the knockout power then slowly start to come. Because naturally, the more guys grow into a weight class, the more at home they feel and the more physically their body kind of gets used to being bigger. And then that's where you see the knockouts come. And I think, you're looking at Haney, I think he'll just be too quick for him. Ryan Garcia, I think he'll overwhelm Garcia. I don't think Ryan will know what to do. And I think Ryan's very good against southpaws, but I still feel it's very, very... Ryan, I just don't think has the activity, or... I don't want to say the skill, I just don't think he's... Fundamentally, I just think he isn't built to beat Shakur Stevenson. Tank's the intriguing one, because Tank is very quick and powerful, and he's a better boxer than people give him credit for, but once again, can he touch Shakur? And Tank, when he gets in there, and if somebody really starts to put a jab in front of him and makes it a bit horrible for him, he sometimes just seems to get a bit flustered. So I do wonder how it happens. But I'm excited to see how Shakur does, and I think like I said, 135, you got a problem in your hands. I think Shakur Stevenson, in my opinion, beats every single one of these guys, but we'll see how it is. But yeah, Shakur Stevenson, dark horse at 135, and until next time.